Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. You guys, today it's gonna be a little bit of a longer build. I was having such a hard time trying to do this because there were so many things that were going wrong, and of course it had to happen to your girl, but it did. And there were so many things like I don't know why, okay? When I was building this, my reshade that I use, and I'll also have that in the description down below too, or the information that I use for it. But it never does this. But the radiant shade that I have, it just for some reason completely just like stopped working, and it completely shut off. And I don't know what happened, but it made my game go super wonky while I was like recording this and building this. And I was like, okay, that's not supposed to happen. And it was like 11 a.m. in the morning when I started to like have this issue, and it didn't go until almost 7 o'clock at night when I figured it out. I had this video that I was constantly like re-watching, redoing it, like reinstalling it, and it kept having the same problems. And that's why if you guys saw my Instagram, or if you guys saw on my YouTube community post here, that's when I had like a question where I was like, someone please help you girl. And shout out, you guys did help me, so thank you all so freaking much. I was freaking out because I was like, well, if this doesn't happen, then I can't finish this build because it wouldn't make any sense and it wouldn't look good. And it's just, you know what, I never used to have reshades before, but ever since I started using them, I just like, I can't not build without them anymore. Like, I never realized how dull the game is, or unless like I'm just super used to the way that these radiant shades help it. It works so well. It's so beautiful. She did make a full video answering questions and going through like a full like complete walkthrough on how to download it. And usually I think it was just my computer's issue, the reason why that happened. So I hope that doesn't scare you away from it. But I I love it. And then as soon as I started doing that, around 2-ish or 1-ish a.m., my power went out. Oh, and I just got a email right now that said one of my videos can't be monetized. What is happening? Oh gosh, okay, hopefully I fixed that. Oh gosh, there's been so many things happening, but you guys, around like 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning, my power went out. Not once, but twice. Twice it happened. And I don't know when the power went back on, because as soon as that happened, I was like, I just had 2 hours of footage that is completely gone. I'm like, oh, okay. At that point, your girl was so done. I was like, you know what? I just need to go to bed. It's you know what? It's late. I need to go to sleep. Let me just go to sleep. So I just went to sleep. And the next day, I could not get it back. So I got this like website that I was like, okay, if my video, because my video showed that it was still there. So if I put it into this website, it'll transform into an MP4, and then that's how I can get like the video to stay on my computer. And when I finally put it in, it was there all day. It took about like 6 hours for it to render, and it still didn't work. So I just decided to just record it on my OBS. This will happen probably about the time when you guys see me working on the bar that you'll see. And you guys, this build, again, even though there were so many issues that were happening, and I want to record so much because I'm off for like 4 days, and I wanted to record so much, and it's just been really busy. If any of you guys don't know, we're moving currently. Well, we're in the midst of finishing up a house, and then we're going to be moving again. And there's just been a bunch of people in the bathroom. Now, if you're like, okay, they're in the bathroom, thank you for letting us know. No, there's a bathroom connected into my bedroom, and there's been people and like random people just like painting in my room and in the bathroom and all this stuff. So I've been wanting to do a lot of recordings, but I can't because there's a bunch of like random people in my house. So that was the thing. So I couldn't get that done. But you know what? Out of everything that was happening, I had so much fun building this, you guys. It's definitely something that I'm not used to. And sometimes when I find that if I'm building something that is out of my comfort zone, I will listen or watch something that is kind of in that specific genre that helps me with building. And if you guys ever look, I get a lot of questions asking about like how I come up with these things or what helps me build. or helps keep me inspired. I actually was watching Elvis, the new one, the 2022 one, and I just became obsessed with like the music. I knew who Elvis was. I knew his songs. I knew a lot of those kind of things, but I've never really looked into Elvis or like his past or really a lot of his songs I knew, but I didn't really like look fully in. And when I was watching the movie, it was really good. And Austin Butler, you guys, Austin Butler did absolutely insane. The fact that like he was the one that was singing the songs and stuff like that, and he was doing all of the impersonations and everything. Like it was just really, really cool to watch. However, there are a couple of things that I find that Elvis did that was maybe a bit questionable. But I mean, other than that, it was amazing. And I'm listening to like 2 songs right now from there. Actually, no, 3. I'm listening to the one first that's called Trouble, and then the second one that's called Hound Dog, but it's from Shanka, like she's the one who sings it, and then Playhouse, I think, or something like that. That one's also a really good one. So if you want to jam with your girl, you guys gotta go listen to it too. But I never really used to see a lot of like Elvis things. I actually recently, I guess last year, I don't know why I say recently, like it was recent. It wasn't recent. It was last year. And last year I went on a trip to Florida, and we went to the not the Six Flags. I think it was Universal Studios. And actually the only reason why I bring this up is that we went to that rock cafe, but I do have a story about that place, and I'll tell you. Okay, so I am in like a group with like 9 people. We have friends from Puerto Rico. We have a friend from Florida. My boyfriend and I, Alex, we're from Canada. And so all of us flew down to Florida for a couple of days to finally meet each other, because we always like talk every night. And we play with them, like playing different games. And my boyfriend Alex, he has a YouTube channel called Maz Gameplays, and a lot of times when he's live, I'm just sitting in the background or I'm playing with them. So if anytime that happens, you guys can come by and say hi if you guys want to have a talk with me, whenever that may be. But he we play together. And so since we have these guys, we all decided to go to Universal Studios, go to the Disney downtown. There was a bunch of different things that we wanted to do. And when we finally got up to the gate, there's this lady, and it was really awkward, and I don't know if she was just having a bad day or whatever the story may be, but Alex and I, we have our tickets like digitally online, and I think Alex accidentally sent me his ticket. So when we finally went over there and we got her to scan the tickets, I went up first, and she like looks at me and she's like, "Alex?" And I didn't like look at her, and then like she was like, "Excuse me?" And I was like, "Oh, yes." And she's like, "Is your name Alex?" And I go, "Oh, no, that's my boyfriend." She's like, "Then why does your ticket say that it's Alex?" And obviously, I mean, my first thought was like, well, how on earth could we have that? I'm sure we just accidentally like mix the two. And I was like, oh, that was probably an issue on my part. I accidentally maybe sent his to me and whatever. And he's like, "So your name is not Alex?" And I was like, "No." And she was giving me like so much attitude for no reason, and I was so like confused, because I was like, okay, I'm like, how is this happening? I'm like, that it's an easy fix. I'm like, but why is she so mad at me? And she was like, "So if you're not Alex, you can't go through." And I was like, oh, I'm like, well, that ticket's for him. And then like he came over, and Alex came over, and he's like, "What's happening?" And I was like, explained to him what happened. And he came over, and he's like, "Okay, well, this ticket must have been yours." So he was like, "Well, why don't you just scan this one?" And she like looks at him, and then she like scans it, and she's like, "Are you Jamie?" And I was like, "Yeah, I am." And she's like, "Okay, we had to do something. I can't remember. But there was like a whole issue. I don't know what happened. And we had to do something. It happened a really long time ago, but I think she made us like go print it or something. I can't remember. But we finally came back, and we got through, and she's like, I was like, something. Oh, yes. I said, oh yeah, have a good day. And she goes, mm-hmm. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what happened? I'm like, why was she so like upset? I get like there's probably a bunch of people like all the time that are going through and giving like the wrong tickets and trying to sneak in. But I'm like, you saw my name on a ticket and you saw Alex's name on a ticket. The only reasonable explanation, the reason why I had my boyfriend's ticket is because we accidentally switched it with the emails. I'm like, that is completely like, that's a normal thing that happens. And then when I say, okay, thank you, have a nice day. And then she's like, mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, girl, don't do that to me. I'm like, I'm already in like an emotional state. There is that Florida trip was so much fun. Don't get me wrong. It was so much fun. I had such a great time. But at the same time, like, there was a lot of things that happened to me, like, mentally over there. And it was just, like, it was so draining. But I guess, like, while we're still on the topic of being there, the first ride that you can kind of see when you first get in is, like, this giant ride that's, like, you go up, like, 90 degrees and you drop down, like, 90 degrees. And it looked terrifying, you guys. It was absolutely terrifying. And I saw it and I was like, oh, no. And Alex comes over and he's like, no, we gotta do it. Like, this is it. Like, we're not gonna come back to Universal in a really long time. He's like, we gotta go on this ride with everyone. And I look at him and I look back at the ride and I'm like, yeah, you're right. You know, it's once in a lifetime kind of thing. And he was like, oh, great. So like we start walking and I'm just like dead inside. I'm so sad. I'm like, I really did not want to go on this ride. And we're sitting there and we finally get our locker. There's so many people. And as soon as we finally make it up the line, like an hour later, we get on the ride. And on the front of it, there's like options to listen to music. And I'm like, okay, either one of two things. This ride is so much fun that they want you to enjoy it and listen to music. Or option two, this ride is so absolutely terrifying that they're making you listen to music so that you can stay calm. And obviously, it was the second one. And I was like looking through it. I'm like, oh, wow, okay. I'm like, they have music. But the countdown immediately started as soon as I started looking at the screen. And Alex is like, okay, I found mine. And he was like right beside me. And I was like, wait, I'm like, Alex, I'm like, wait, no, help me, please. I'm like, it's not working. And the screen turned off. And I was absolutely terrified because I was like, oh no, I'm like, my screen turned off. I can't listen to music. I can't listen to Elvis. I'm like, what's happening? So I'm like sitting here and like going up and it's just like all the way up. And you guys, I am like exactly 90 degrees and I am absolutely terrified. I was not having it at all. And I'm like sitting here, I'm like looking up at the sky and I'm like, I'm going to die. I am going to die. I'm like this music. And Alex is just like, I look over to my right and Alex is just like jamming away to music. Like he's just having a great time. And you know what? I'm glad he's having a great time because I am internally dying inside. Mind you, I don't think Alex heard me or whatever, even though he was right beside me. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he had no idea that I was just freaking out. And as soon as we get off the ride, we go through it. And I guess like, yeah, as soon as we get up to the top, it was everything that you expected it to be. It stopped. I saw an immediate drop and my soul left my body. It was gone. But we went through the ride. As soon as we got off the ride, I had a raging headache. I was not feeling good. I didn't like it at all. Like usually I'm pretty good with roller coasters. I've never been one to be afraid of roller coasters. It doesn't work. Like I'm actually pretty okay. There is, however, one ride at Canada's Wonderland, and it's one of the newer ones, and I refuse to go on this ride because it looks absolutely terrifying, but I need to, and maybe I should make like a vlog one day when we go, but you guys, I'm terrified. I don't want to go on there at all, but as soon as we got off this ride, I like looked at him and he's like, man, that was so much fun. And then he like looks at me and he's like, oh, Jamie, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm fine. Like I'm okay. just a little lightheaded. And so we went over, grabbed some water for like $6, by the way. Why is everything so expensive? And we start walking. I'm just trying to like get back on my feet. And I didn't realize this, but almost every single ride at Universal is all like theater, like movie kind of thing. Like, I don't know the term for it. Motion picture or something. I don't know. But you're basically sitting in like something, and there's like screens that are happening around you. It's not really a roller coaster. And we didn't know this. And so all of our heads were starting to get like, oh, like really, all of us just started to feel gross, except for two of our friends, Zoralis and Wesley. They were fine. They're completely like, let's just go on more rides. Let's go watch more things. I think all of us were just like, I don't even know what, like, we were weak, I guess. Like, we just felt so gross. And as we kept walking throughout the park, we see this ride, and it was like the Hulk ride. And I was just like, okay, I mean, it looks cool. It's a roller coaster. It doesn't look too scary. Like, I should be fine. And I didn't think like much of it, because I was like, okay, like, it's just a roller coaster. I'm fine on roller coasters. Everything else has been like, recently everything else has been like on a screen, so if I'm on a roller coaster, I should be fine. And I like go on, and I'm like, okay, this looks cool. And I knew that this ride was gonna start like really abruptly. And do keep in mind, your girl has not eaten anything yet. She barely drank any water, and she has a raging headache. I did not realize that is not a good combination when you go on a roller coaster. And you guys, I've been on roller coasters my entire life. This has not happened fully, except for a ride, and I'll tell you this in a second. As soon as the ride started, my vision went black. And you're like, oh, she blacked out. And it was weird. I was in the middle of blacking out. So as soon as it started really abruptly, right? And it experienced, like, I had the same experience that there was like a ride at Canada's Wonderland that was something similar to this. So I thought I was okay. And then my vision just like around me started like bubbling almost like in black. And I was like, oh, I'm like, this is really weird. I'm like, oh my God. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, oh my God, am I passing out right now? Am I starting to black out? And I've never had this before, except very, very briefly. And I wasn't sure if that was blackout or not. But now looking back, I was about to black out, but not. It was a ride called Leviathan at Canada's Wonderland, and you were up really high, and it's like the fastest one in Canada. And when you start at the top and then you go to the very bottom, in between that, it's very quick. It's like a very quick like ride, and my vision sometimes would start to go like a little like gray almost, but I never understood why. Now, after this, being completely almost blacked in, I was blacking out. So I got like really dizzy when I started to see it, and I'm like sitting here, I'm like in my head, I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to black out. No, you can't black out. You can't black out. You can't black out. And because that would terrify me, like being blacked out on a roller coaster. No, thank you. I've seen way too many videos of people doing that where they like wake up and they're like, ah, and then they go back to sleep. Like, I can't do that. And so the ride comes to a stop, and I fought through it, but I did fully have a black like vision, and then I like kind of snapped right out of it. So we get off the ride, and I'm so dizzy at this point, you guys. I don't feel good. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, that was super weird. And Alex comes over, and he's like, whoa. He's like, this was awesome. He's like, how did you like it? And I was like, I blacked out. And he was like, what? He's like, what? Wait, really? And I go, yep. Yeah, I blacked out. I stopped myself. Like, I kind of explained to him, and he was like, oh my God. He's like, no more roller coasters for you today at all. And I was like, what? No, like, this is a big day. I'll be fine. And I'm so stubborn, you guys. And I was like, no, I'm fine. And he's like, no. And so of course he works in like the medical kind of field and like the nutritionist field. So he knows that like blacking out, obviously we know is not the best for you. There's could be a lot of like different things that go with it. And he was like, okay, we need to get you some more electrolytes. We need to go get you some food. Like, so we had to sit out for a little bit because they wanted to go back on the ride. And I was like, oh no, I can't do that. And Alex is like, no, I'll stay here with her. You guys guys go have fun. So, like, bless his soul. Bless his soul. And I was fine after that, but I was just like not having it. And then the entire day, my head was killing me. A lot of the rides, like I mentioned before, were just like all on the screen. And a lot of us were just kind of like, oh, okay. So towards the end of the night, we got really hungry, and I saw that they had that Hard Rock Cafe, but it was like the biggest one, I think, or whatever it said. It was like the biggest one in the world. I'm not sure. And I was like, wow, I'm like, we have to go. I'm like, it looks so cool. There's like a giant guitar out front. Like, the only one that I know a Hard Rock Cafe is in Niagara Falls, which is over there, but it's like a small one. It's not very big. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, can we go? I'm like, it looks so cool. I'm like, the pictures I would have to take for my mom and my dad, I'm like, it looks so cool. And he was like, oh yeah, like, let me ask the group. So everybody was cool with it. So we go in, and we're like looking around. I'm like, this place is absolutely massive. There's like 3 floors. There's memorabilia all over. There's a freaking giant like 70s pink car in the middle where the bar is. Like, I'm just like, I'm so wowed. And it's so funny because before I was never really into like old school kind of things. Like, my sister was into like that old granny kind of stuff. I was into like the more diner kind of stuff and how like that like old century stuff looked, but like in a modern twist almost, like with the pastels, with like the greens and the reds and the pinks. And so I'm like, I'm geeking out because I'm like, wow, this place is absolutely stunning. And you can see like there's a room specifically for Elvis. And you see, now this is when I start to talk about Elvis. But I had to go through the entire story with you guys. I had to go through my entire day, of course. But we finally sit down, and I can see across the room there is a full Elvis room. And at that point, I didn't know a whole lot of Elvis, but I knew of him. I knew his history. I knew he was the king of rock. Like, all those basic things. But I've never seen like all of his outfits, what he was into, like all those things, and his guitars and da 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 da. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, I definitely, like, I had my eyes set on that. I was like, I want to go see that. But we got our waiter in. He was really cool. He looked like a dude in a band. Like, he had the tattoos, he had the beard, everything, the clean cut slick hair. Like, the dude looked like a rugged version of Elvis or something. And he like came over and he's like, can I get you guys something to drink? And usually what I usually get is like a oh gosh, not a martini. What am I doing? Oh my god. What is it called? A Shirley Temple. Shirley Temple is what I got. And with those, there's no alcohol in it because I don't like drinking. I don't like anything like that. It's basically, you guys, it's just basically a lot of orange juice, which is like your main ingredient, grenadine, which is like a cherry syrup, and then Sprite. And that's all you need. And it tastes so good. If you guys have that stuff at home, try it. It is so good. So I was like, okay, like, let me just get one of those. And he was like, okay. So he comes back. And I think he forgot the main ingredient. And if you guys remember, orange juice. He just had like a cup that had the cherry syrup on the bottom and Sprite. And that was it. And Alex even saw it, and he's like, I don't really drink Shirley Temples. He's like, but I know for a fact that ain't it. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, no, I'm going to ask him for it. I was like, I don't want to bug him. I'm like the last person in that table that will be like, I don't want to change anything. I don't want to do anything like that. Like, it's okay. It's fine. Like, I'll just deal with it. And my friend Zarella, she's like, she's like, no, like, what happened? No. And she was like, no, I should say something. And Alex is like, no, it's fine, whatever. But that happened, and I was like, okay, that's fine. It's fine. And I was like, okay, but everything else was good, and I really enjoyed it. So after we go over and we could see the memorabilia, and I went into the room, and I was like, man, I wish I spent more time in there because there was so much like history in there. It was so freaking cool, you guys. And I like saw that there was like pictures of Elvis. We saw his shirts, his like actual outfits that he wore. Like, it was just insane. And I'm like sitting here, I'm like, wow. And I didn't know that Elvis was into martial arts, which is kind of funny because I'm also like, I was a martial arts instructor a couple of years back, and that was so fun. And that whole trip was so awesome, and we're hoping to finally go on a trip now. But you guys, I'm just trying to save money. I had a call from an interview from a guy, and he was like, "Hey, like I'll for a job up where Alex lives." And if any of you guys don't know, like Alex lives about like 2-ish hours away, like an hour and 40 now for me if I take like a good road, and he was like, okay, like I have this day scheduled for an interview. And I was like, oh, great, awesome. And then he like messaged me on that day and he said, I have to reschedule. Like, I'll talk to you in the next week and let you know. And I was like, okay, no problem. And you guys, it's the following Monday. So this was last Thursday. It is the following Monday. And I still haven't got an email from him. And I even like did like a follow-up email, and I haven't received any word back. I'm like, if you found someone, at least let me know, like, hi, thank you so much for your interest in this position. But you know, we found another candidate, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, because I was like really like banking on that one. And the fact that I hadn't received anything back, I was kind of bummed. I was kind of like, I'm still waiting. I don't know why I'm still waiting. But you guys, it was just like really annoying. So if you guys remember, after that whole money talk with my boyfriend a couple days ago, I went to go buy a lottery ticket. And when I went to go buy the lottery ticket, I got asked for my ID. And that has never happened to me before. And I was working at the time, so I didn't have like my ID in my pocket. And this girl was like, you look like a schoolgirl. And I was like, I am 23, but it's fine. I'm like, I don't want to get you in trouble, like whatever, like I'll just come back. I never came back. So my thing is that if she saw me leave and saw that I never came back, but I told her I was 23, but didn't verify it that day, she's like, ha, I got her. And I was like, no, I'm 23. So I went over, not the following day, because I forgot, but the next day after that, I came in and I like walked up and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go buy a lottery ticket, and she's gonna know I have my ID with me, and she's gonna know that I'm 23. And so I like walk up and I don't see her at the counter, and I'm like, oh, I'm like, no, that was a waste of a walk. I'm like, she's not here. And then I saw her walking in the aisles. And she saw that I saw her. Like, she see me, I saw her. We made eye contact. And she like walks up to the till. And I like go over, I'm like, hi, can I have this water and a lottery ticket? And she was like, yes. And she kind of like giggled, and I was like, here is my ID. I'm like, here, I am 23. And she goes, thank you. So you know what, you guys, even at the end of the day, if I didn't get an email back, this girl knows that your girl, she is 23. Hallelujah. Well, you guys, if you've made it to the end, thank you all so freaking much for watching. I'm sorry if I sound a little stuffed up. My nose, especially when it gets to this time of year, my nose is so stuffy. But please stay tuned for the pictures at the very end. And yeah, if you like this video, maybe please consider like, commenting, and subscribing, and I will see you all later. Okay, bye guys.